Good evening and welcome to Monday night's edition of what was described as the bad boy of Swindon Town content, the kebab on after a night out and a fight in the taxi on the way home. It's the first time I've been described as a bad boy, that's for sure, but I'll certainly take it. It makes us sound very, very cool indeed. We have three of your regular panellists joining me this evening, and we've got young Alex joining us as well for a deep dive into what is going on around the division, as well as a non-food based opening question for everybody. Before we say hello, let's roll the titles.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
Swindon Town into the promised land.
If, like me, you got engrossed in the cricket over the weekend, England falling just short of Australia, you may well have been entertained by a slightly angry Stuart Broad on Sunday, and kind of stealing something that they did on the radio, but I'd already planned to do it. He's now infamously said, "This is all you'll be remembered for." So what I'd like to know from tonight's panel and from everyone watching and listening along is, what is the one thing you're going to be remembered for? Let's see what our panel have to say, starting with the legend of FRI. Evening, Nick.
Fifey, what a question. Hi, man, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. What will I be remembered for?
What's the one thing you'll be remembered for, Nick?
Well, I'm currently writing a book.
Are you?
And yeah, in the about me.
An
Nothing
autobiography?
interesting, just about me. Yeah, for my grandkids in the future.
Yes.
And one of the things
I'm
I put
already
in there,
sold. Nick
and
the
I said,
memoirs.
I said it happened. I'm not proud of it, but it happened, so I had to include it.
Okay.
And that was being carted off to hospital in an ambulance because I was so drunk. I had alcoholic poisoning and ended up having my stomach pumped out.
Oh,
Not
not
nice.
for that of you.
Yeah, well, back in my youth. Not my finest hour.
So the one thing you're going to be remembered for is being taken to hospital in an ambulance with alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, being a drunk.
Evening, Rob. Evening, Barry.
Actually, I'll give you one more. Football-wise.
Go on.
I once scored 11 goals in a competitive game in a league match, and we won 15-2. So how about that? That's better.
Yeah, that can be the one thing you'll be remembered for.
That'll be better. Yeah.
I'm very interested in our next panelist's answer to the question. Good evening, Woody. What's the one thing you're going to be remembered for?
Good evening. How are you, first of all? Whilst I'm buying time to think of what I'm going to be remembered for.
I'm very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I want to know what I need to do to obtain this legendary status that you've given Nick, given that I'm one of the OG FRI members.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, Woody, on that.
Yeah,
so without question, Nick has very quickly become a legend. He, as is pointed out in the chat, he's come in, been here less than a year, and he's already #Housewives fave. You don't need to be told of your legendary status. You already know of your legendary status.
You could tell
and I consider you more of a right-hand man.
Oh, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm like your tailor to your club type thing.
Yeah, basically, you're the brains behind the operation.
All right, fair enough. What would I do? Oh, I don't know. I want to think of a funny one. I mean, obviously, I'm always going to be remembered for being the oracle in women's football.
Of course.
Obviously. And Craig can't see me. But I think recently, just about, Mike's just stole it. I was going to say recently, I think the only thing I'm going to be remembered for is that picture from now on.
You mean this one that I've always got to hand?
That is the only one that I'm ever going to be remembered for now, I think. I'm sure there's plenty of other photos. Oh, I'll tell you, there is one photo, and maybe if the auction bids get high enough and people can't be bothered to browse through my Facebook, it's when I had to dress up as Freddie Mercury out of the I Want to Break Free video. That's the photo I'd probably be remembered for, because as you can probably tell, I'm quite a hairy guy. So it's definitely not a women pleaser, and it's probably not even a bloke pleaser. So yeah, I think to probably my closer circle of friends in terms of outside of football, I'll always be remembered for the Butlins dress up of Freddie Mercury. I got a lot of attention that day though, so happy days.
I now don't know what I'm more excited for, Nick's memoirs or a picture of Woody as Freddie Mercury. I really don't know.
Well, what we'll do is Nick can do the memoirs, and then he can have like a little section about all of his mates, and he'll have a photo to represent each mate. There you go. Look, that's a seller, Nick.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Yeah, we'll hold you to that one.
Or the FRI calendar. Either way.
The X-rated FRI calendar.
Wow. Let's say hello and good evening to our next regular Fools member. He's had plenty of time, so I bet he's got a creative answer to today's opening question. Good evening, Craig.
Yeah, evening all. I don't know about whether it's creative, my answers, but when we come up, speaking of the X-rated calendar, I heard we were going to be doing the full Monty. So, you know, I mean, although then we realised we want to actually sell the calendar, so that's probably not going to happen either. But for me, what would I be remembered for? It's normally some sort of drunken antics. So
if Kieran was here, he'd be remembered for stealing chips.
Yeah, that was going to be one of them. Yeah, for stealing a plate of chips off of someone's table, and I thought they'd gone, and they hadn't. They were actually queuing up for drinks, and then came back while I had a mouthful of chips in my mouth, which was very funny. Dressing up as the Woody reminded me about when he said he was dressed up as Freddie Mercury, and one time on a stag weekend, me and my mates, we dressed up as the thugs from A Clockwork Orange with the bowler hats and canes, and you know, you got the actual proper like fucking jock straps and everything, and yeah, that was quite fun.
Mike said in the chat here that Craig mostly remembered for his striking personality, typical train driver.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not one of the popular ones on this pod, am I? You know, as Woody was saying, it's all about Nick or Ned or Wazza or someone like that.
It is about them three generally, isn't it?
The rest of us are just chopped liver, really, aren't we? So there we go. But yeah, probably some sort of drunken antic I might be remembered for. And if I'm being bored, I think probably I'd like to think that I'll be remembered for being a good dad. That's what I'd like to think I'll be remembered for. It's the only thing I know that I'm good at. Well, apart from train driving, but yeah.
Before we welcome tonight's guest on, just to get some admin out of the way.
Yeah.
We announced a little while ago that Fools are going live Friday the 4th of August. As is noted on the ticker down the bottom, tickets have been going now for about a week. I think we're about halfway through the allocation that we can do. There is no price for the tickets, so if you are interested in attending, all you have to do, drop a message to any one of the regular Fools members. We can pass you our Just Giving link, and all we ask is a donation that you're comfortable making. The value is neither here nor there for us, just the fact that you're willing to make the donation. On the night, there's going to be Fools Games. I've lost track. It seems to be an 8-part quiz of different styles seems to be coming in. Craig's convinced me to do a Defend the Indefensible, which we might like the audience to get involved with in some capacity as well as a live auction on the night, which for the eagle-eyed social media users, if you didn't exceed your Twitter allowance, that is, you would have seen posts from a few of us today. The first free items, the first free auction lots have been made available for pre-bids. We've got 2 signed Swindon Town shirts, one from last season and one from 2009, plus a bespoke one-of-a-kind FRI 2023-24 calendar. You can stick pre-bids in by emailing Nick on that email address shown in the post, also available on our other social media channels. And if you are successful, then you will be notified accordingly. But yes, please do have a look at those items. And if you are interested in bidding in any of those, drop Nick an email and he will register your bid. Gents, shall we welcome tonight's guest? Oh, hang on. Rob said that Craig's going to be remembered for the rant.
Yeah, true.
We first met this young man earlier in the summer when he very kindly appeared on our STFC content creator episode. We're delighted he's back. He's been working very hard over the summer, something that's not necessarily associated with the club we all support. Good evening, Alex. How are you, pal?
Hi guys, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a slow summer for Swindon Town point of view, but it can only get better from here, right? So,
well, this is what we're all hoping. As I said, you've been working very hard. You've been doing, forgive me if it's wrong, kind of weekly, if not twice weekly, YouTube vlogs, just looking through all the different transfers in the league, haven't you? And keeping on top of everything for us.
yeah, so I've started a series called Signing Sundays, which is about like kind of a 8-minute kind of video, basically rounding up all the transfer business that's been going on through League Two, kind of giving an opinion on how each kind of key transfer is going to kind of affect the team and the league. And we basically, I thought it was a nice idea to kind of see as we go through the summer what teams are, you know, doing well in the market and whether that means that we're going to have a tough league next year. And there've been a lot of big signings already, none of them from Swindon Town, but soon come.
Well, we've surely got the best goalkeeper in the league now, haven't we? That's almost without question.
Fingers crossed. There's literally no evidence about the guy at all. Like, so I'm from Bath and he played for Bath City, and we asked like the people who go all the time, like, what was he like? And they just kind of shrugged. And so we were like, okay, cool.
Great.
I believe I'm right in saying he's the only sort of comment that we're seeing a lot of, other than no one seems to know a lot about him, is he's quite short.
Yeah, that worries me a lot as well, like his height. Like, I look at footballers the way most girls my age look at guys. Like, if they're not above 6 foot, then it's a problem. It's like, what's going on there? So,
if they're not 6 foot plus, you're not interested.
Hold on. If they're not 6 foot or Nick, is what you're supposed to say.
Nothing wrong with being under 6 foot unless you're a goalkeeper.
Short kings, yeah. Short kings unite.
We're going to take a deep dive throughout the league as pre-season starts to kick off for everyone, and get your sort of expert opinion, Alex, on how you think that teams are starting to shape up from what you've seen transfer-wise. But is there one or two standout signings early doors? Because anyone who watches our social media channels publicly know that there's a debate as to whether the best value is to get the business done early or late in the window. Has there been any real good business, in your opinion, already early doors?
Yeah, I think the one that stands out has got to be David McGoldrick going to Notts County. I remember hearing the rumour and thinking there's no way. Like, why would he do that? The guy just scored like 25 goals in League One, including a couple of hat-tricks. Why would he drop to League Two? But he's done it, and that's a bit of a mad signing for them. Although I was speaking to my brother, Joe, who one of the reporters at the club, and we were saying, like, who would you rather have, David McGoldrick or Charlie Austin? And personally, I'd rather have Charlie Austin. So you could argue that we've got a better striker than them. So, but it was a very good signing for sure. I thought another really good signing was Stockport getting Ibu Toure from Salford.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
He was in team of the season last year, and he's their captain. He's one of the best defenders in the division. He's not just been in team of the season last year. He was in it, I think, the year before that. He's definitely been in it multiple times. So he's a very competent defender, very strong signing for them. But yeah, there have been a lot of good signings as well, like Joe Ironside dropping to Doncaster. I thought that was a very good signing, striker that's going to score a lot of goals. And you can look at the business that Walsall or MK Dons and stuff have been doing. So yeah.
Just going back on the McGoldrick thing, Woody, one thing everyone's been saying, I mean, Woody?
Yeah.
Just making sure you were concentrating, that's all.
Oh, I'm concentrating. I was trying to find the mute button.
Everyone's saying, obviously, this is going to be a much, much stronger division this year. But with the signings already in place and the rumoured signings, it could be one hell of a race for the Golden Boot, couldn't it?
I personally, I think when we think of, well, we're obviously thinking Charlie Austin's going to be in the race for it. I personally, at the moment, don't think he'll be in the top three because I just don't think he's got the stuff behind him. But you know, if we recruit properly, then he will be in the top three. But you know, you can't go past McGoldrick, you can't go past Ironside. I think that Alex mentioned. You know, and I think yes, you're right. It's going to be a race for the Golden Boot, but League Two is kind of reverting to what it probably was kind of around 5 years ago, where you used to get quite a lot of experienced strikers start to drop down. Let's not forget that obviously Owen Doyle and things like that, you know, with us, you know, it's kind of but the strikers start to drop down. So that's where we're at. And I think in League Two, really, if you're going to play two up front, you always want that experienced striker who's going to get you goals. And that's what everybody's recruiting. I mean, Bradford had it in. I've got a really bad thing with the names today. What's his face? He could have scored against us. Yeah, Cook. You know, it's who's still in Brewitt's pocket. But the
Brewitt, who's officially signed about a week after we will find out about it.
So yeah, I think it will be an entertaining race. Don't get me wrong. And I think if Charlie Austin gets what he needs behind him, then he's going to be fulfilling an actual striker's role rather than that kind of deep lying 9 forward thinking 10 role, which kind of doesn't exist but somehow was made to exist by Morris. But yeah, I think then he might do. But you know, is it going to be? If you look at the League Two defences, there's a lot of defences that are shoring up as well, which are going to make it quite difficult for the strikers. As Alex has rightly said, there's some good defenders being signed around the division, and I think that's going to cause a lot. You know, I generally think like this is probably the positive spin I'm going to have on it. Is it's going to be an entertaining season, I think. But we need to do a lot more.
It's going to be worth every one of those Wrexham versus Salford games that Sky tried to get on telly, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I might actually consider cancelling my Sky Sports subscription just because I know that's going to piss me off.
We have another full waiting in the wings to join tonight's panel. And I think in answer to the opening question, which forgive me, Alex, I didn't actually ask you. I'll give you time to think. Of what your answer to this would be. But this young man is going to be well remembered as most people thought he was a mythical creature until he found his way back to where he belongs. No longer referred to as one show. Good evening, Gary.
No, see, I'm Gary several shows now.
Gary several shows now, yeah. How are you, buddy? You all right?
We're all well, good, thank you. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, very good. Thanks for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. I thought I'd better do. It's been a while.
Just get them appearance fees in, pal?
That's right.
So yeah, Alex, obviously you're, I think it's fair to say, considerably younger than the rest of tonight's panel. But what one thing are you going to be remembered for at this juncture?
Oh, I definitely like to go down the route of what Nick said about like something you do on the football pitch. After like the amazing season we had the season before last, and we almost got promoted, like obviously Harry McCurdy scoring all those goals, I took to whenever I would score a goal in Sunday League, I'd pop out the old McCurdy archer. It became a bit of a joke for the people I was playing with because no one has ever heard of Harry McCurdy or the level we play at. And I scored quite a few goals that season, so like it was coming out quite often, but no one knew what it was, so it was always quite funny.
Superb.
Just looked absolute big time with your own bow and arrow celebration.
Yeah, everyone else just walks back to the centre, and I'm off at the corner flag. You got to do it. You got to do it, haven't you? So
absolutely
Brilliant.
Absolutely class. And the fact that you did manage to get a few that year as well, it's just not like it just came out the once, it just kept coming out as well.
It was like McCurdy's magic was rubbing off on me, so I had to keep doing it.
Superb. Well, as I said, Alex is here to help us take a deep dive through the league and have a look at some of the early transfer business. But I think, gents, it's fair to say, and looking around tonight's panel, it's almost without question that the phrase style icons wouldn't be wasted on us. And after all of the chat online, as town fans clamoured for any news, eventually this kit got released to mixed reaction. We have gone through and we have found all of the kits from the other clubs that have been released. And so as Alex does the sensible bit for us, we're going to be talking nonsense about kits at the same time, what we like, what we don't like. But just first, we'll go around the panel and talk about our own club. Craig, what was your initial reaction to the release of the home shirt?
Well, can I just say, I just found the whole response to the release absolutely hilarious, whether you liked it or not. It was just both sides. It's just fucking hilarious. It was. There's people who absolutely hate it. There's people who absolutely love it, and that's great. If you love it, fair enough. It's subjective, isn't it? You know, it's all about taste and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I only care if it's red for the home kit, and that we haven't got a hideous yellow away kit, because in my view, Swindon Town should never play in yellow. Even that gold one. Yeah, I know. That's
gold. No.
Alex, it's funny you should say that. I actually had that top when I was younger, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite as per usual. But yeah, you know, as long as the away kit's not yellow, I don't particularly care. Do I particularly like this red kit? Not really, but I've got no sort of thing, strong opinion on it really either way. But I just thought it's hilarious that people's opinions on it, and like if you've got a different opinion amongst our fan base about the kit, it's like they're having a pop at each other. So like people who like it are saying, oh yes, the usual moaners that don't like it, and then there's the people who don't like it are like saying, oh, how could you love that kit? Oh yeah, you must be a happy clapper if you love all that kit. It's like, fucking get over yourselves, really. Unless you've fucking got one, your opinion means fuck all, really. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. Your opinion is no more valid than anyone else's on the kit. It's all about taste at the end of the day. Get over yourselves. It's out there. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. Just move on with your lives. Yeah, there's more things important to worry about, whether you like or don't like a kit.
Mike says, since the town shirt's been released, I've had no concerns about driving over the Magic Roundabout. Mind you, I didn't before either. Nick, your initial thoughts to the kit when it was released, please.
Well, first off, someone earlier said Craig the rant, and I think that's very apt. Doesn't take long, does it?
No, sorry, yeah.
It's okay. As Craig said, it's red, but I am a bit OCD. And I did agree with a tweet that Fifey put out, the positioning of the logo and the badge. That just drives me mad. It has to be centralised. I would like the badge in this. If you put the shirt back up in the centre roundabout, and I think it would look quite smart there. So that's one of my issues against it. The other one. Red shorts. No. We ain't freaking Liverpool. No for red shorts. Should never, ever be allowed. We are Swindon's red and white. In case people have forgotten. Terrible decision. Absolutely terrible.
So on that, for what it's worth, and it's not a lot, let's be fair. I was quite negative when it was first released. But I think it's because the shorts really wound me up that much that I didn't like it. The shirt itself's grown on me. I'd say the shirt was a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not the best, but it's not bad. I agree. Yeah, the points that I made about that's just laziness, not putting the badge in the middle of and the Puma logo in the middle of the roundabout. It's just sheer laziness. I believe. But other than that, the shirt's fine. A lot of people loving the little train on the back as well. As a nod to our heritage, so fair play. I have heard, and I don't know if any of you have got it yet, but the rumor is it's a fairly snug fit, just for reference.
XL then, Woody.
But yeah, I think the shorts really wound me up, and it affected my ability to like the shirt. Shorts aside, I think the top is fine, more or less. Gary, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, hit or miss. It was okay. It's the worst shirt I've seen since Clem's come on board, if I'm honest. Definitely the worst one since Clem's aboard. I like the train at the back, like you said.
The training kit's actually nicer.
The training kit's much nicer. The train's nice on the back. I don't like the roundabouts. It feels like we are a bit more inbreds and roundabouts. It's a bit more of a thing being shouted at us now. But yeah, like Craig said, it's a shirt. I do like the red shorts. I have to be honest. I do like red shorts.
Okay, interesting. Woody?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the red shorts. I think the red shorts are better than the t-shirt.
I think your first comment to me was that's a comment coming from someone that's never had to wash white shorts.
Yeah, there is that function as well. Obviously, people that like the white shorts probably have never had to wash white shorts after the end of the game. But no, do you know what? It's one of those, I think, when I've seen it in person, I might like it a bit better because sometimes those type of designs, the kind of graphic doesn't do it any favors. I thought that probably about the last kit, actually. I thought when it looked better in person than what it did, when the first graphic was
Joe's saying here as well.
Yeah, and but yeah, I think I don't like the roundabout nod thing. I'm not being funny. Wickham have a magic roundabout as well, so it's not like we're fucking iconic in that. And to be totally honest with you, similar to what Gary said, I don't want Swindon to be known because of its fucking roundabouts. So that literally is no nod. I like the steam train, and that was one of the reasons why the steam train got put back on the badge and stuff like that. I like that. It's funny. I do kind of agree with Nick in terms of the red and white when it comes to the shorts, but just put more white on the t-shirt is what I say. But also let's not forget that we were red, white, and green at one point. So as Alex is demonstrating there in his top. So, but yeah, and I was about to say that as well about I think the red shorts decision was quite driven by the fact that the women's can wear it as well, because they want the women's in the same kit this year. So yeah. I mean, I'll wait until I've seen it. I probably won't buy it because I don't tend to buy many of the home shirts because it's normally for me it's the away shirts are a bit different. I think I brought one home shirt in the last 20 years, and that was the first one that Clem brought in with the diamond badge kind of on the stripes type thing. So I just quite liked that. I thought it was quite a nice little touch, and it was quite nice. But yes, it was another kit that was stupidly snug, which I don't get. I genuinely don't get, because as you go up the leagues, if you go to like Tottenham, for example, especially when they had Puma, they had their match shirts and they had their fan shirts, and their match shirts were the ones that were the tight fit. Their fan shirts, which were all still done small, medium, extra large and all that, were just normal shirts. They weren't engraved. They weren't kind of brought in around the back or anything like that, or tailored. So I'll never understand that. Although the best thing about the kit release for me, and I think Gary was the first thing, the fact that we sold out of shirts within about 3 hours of probably the most popular size, and we've sold out within about 3 hours, I think, which just goes to show that we probably didn't really have any faith in how much we were going to sell.
Ben's dad has messaged in to say that the shirt's a grower. It's funny because I'm sure Ben said this a few times. Football shirts have been snug for the last 15 years, he's found. It's funny, I'm sure Ben said something similar as well. It's as if Ben and his dad are the same person. There we go. Alex, finally, your thoughts on Swindon's kit before we start looking at the rest of the division.
Yeah, I can only echo what people have said about it being a grower. I think the first time I saw a picture of it, I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty plain and the design's a bit strange. But seeing the pictures of the players in it, I think it actually looks really smart. And I think what Vic Morgan said on Twitter, Vic Morgan's usually right about everything Swindon, isn't he? I think he said, it kind of looks like the old kind of 60s shirts or whatever that Swindon used to have with the little collar thing. And I think that is actually... And since I've kind of thought about it like that, I've actually started to like it a lot more. So,
okay. Well, let's start taking a deep dive into the rest of the division. As I said, as pre-season kicks off, and have a look at our rivals, whether that's promotion rivals, mid-table rivals, or relegation rivals, depending on your belief in the state of the club at the moment. Should we just do this in alphabetical order, Alex? Is that the easiest way, most efficient way, do you reckon?
Can do. I mean, I don't mind talking about who I think's done particularly well, because it's probably the more interesting way, I guess, to kind of
go on then. You do that, and I will pick through the images of the kits accordingly for us to discuss after.
Yeah, so I guess the first place to start is Doncaster Rovers, because they've gone crazy. They've signed 8
Yeah.
players already, and I think they'd signed like 5 players in week 1, and that's in addition to getting a new manager in as well, and getting in Grant McCann, and he is being heavily backed with the 8 players coming in already. I think the standout signing, as I've already said, is Joe Ironside. That is a quality player who shouldn't be in the division. The rest of them seem fairly average. I think they got a winger on loan from Wolves who's supposed to be quite good, like a bit of kind of Louis Barry type player who we
Roberts.
had obviously a few years ago. Yeah, Roberts. But 8 players already is quite mad. It'd be interesting to see how many they end up with. The other high spenders, Morecambe, who just been relegated down from League One. They've signed 7 players of not that great looking quality, to be honest, because it's Morecambe.
Well, there's a lot of concern about Morecambe, isn't there?
Well, they're not they haven't got the most money, have they, Morecambe? They were punching well above their weight by even being in League One in the first place. So they're kind of back to where they kind of should be. They were always kind of like just avoiding relegation in League Two, weren't they? It felt like. But they brought in 7 players already, including Moore, who used to be in goal for Swindon Town and wasn't, he was a bit shrug of the shoulders, wasn't he? He didn't play that much. And Barrow brought in 7 players as well. Again, like, it's interesting to see a team like that getting their business done early, because Pete Wild, the manager up at Barrow, is a manager I really rate and I really respect. And I think if he's, like we saw with Stevenage last summer, they got a lot of players in early, and we kind of laughed at them because, like Stevenage, that's a bit silly, that's a bit crazy. But I think there's definitely method to the Pete Wild madness here. So I think Barrow could be doing pretty well.
Alex, did you see, like, there was 2 transfers that Barrow made, which is probably similar to you, that probably caught your eye. 2 ex-Port Vale players that were in their promotion winning team, in David Worrell and Jamie Proctor. That's 2 winners there already, and they're both in their early 30s. But these are the type of players that we should have been signing, in my opinion. They've got David Worrell's got over 400 appearances in League One and League Two, and sort of similar for Jamie Proctor. I mean, Jamie Proctor's not a prolific goal scorer, but he's a big target man who works his socks off, isn't he? And would be, ideal for me if he was playing up front with like Austin or something like that. You could imagine that sort of, what sort of service he could help with Austin. And I think those 2 signings really stood out for me. I don't know if you feel the same for Barrow.
Yeah, I totally agree. I said, so I did another video, like kind of at the end of the season, being like, what kind of players do I think Swindon Town should get? And experienced target man was one of those positions we definitely need. I think we're well sorted out with Charlie Austin and Wakeling and Hepburn Murphy, but the type of striker we don't have, and I think you need in League Two, is a physical big man who you can, if plan B, you can just chuck it into him. If you want to hold on to the ball, he can do that. So Proctor could have been a good signing for us. As much as I don't like to remember the Port Vale game from the other season, but yeah, I think, like I said, I think Pete Wild knows what you need to be successful, and he's bringing in experienced players and some young players as well. So I think they've done very well.
Let's not forget that the 2023-24 is the year of the Adderley as well.
I would love it if Adderley does that. I'd love nothing more than if Adderley comes in like a new signing, because I kind of thought when we signed him, he's kind of like, Davison, Simpson type player, like he'll just kind of do that role for us, and unfortunately it hasn't happened yet. My brother's convinced, after he goes to all the games, like doing reporting for them, he went to see the game against the Crystal Palace under-21s in the kind of no one cares pizza trophy, and I think Ty Shade played up front in that game, and ever since that game he nicknames him O Phenomeno, because apparently he played incredibly well playing as a striker. So I mean, he'd be keen to see that as well.
Well, before we have a look at a few more teams, let's have a look at those that you've mentioned from a kit perspective as well. It's worth noting, Swindon fans obviously clamouring for any sort of news as it was at the time. As we are streaming live tonight, there are still 10 clubs in League Two who haven't announced their kit for the new season, including Salford, who have announced in the last couple of days they've got a new kit deal, but it means that their new shirt isn't going to be unveiled until the middle of the month. So they're looking another 2 to 3 weeks before their kit gets unveiled. Their pre-season friendlies are being played in their training kit.
They've been signing players though, haven't they?
Well, yes.
So,
So you started with Donny, Alex. So it's only right that I do the same. Nick, if I remember correctly, you weren't a big fan of this.
yeah, I think Nick's on mute.
Oh, sorry. I don't think the green and the yellow go with the red, and it looks a bit naff, to be honest, from my point of view.
Yeah, I think the sponsor ruins it for me. The sponsor just looks hideous on it. It doesn't look right.
Well, what is worth noting, we were talking about it off camera, is I've also got an image here of Doncaster's away shirt.
Oh, I like that.
The reason I highlight this is because you'll see in the image next to it is a small T-shirt, and they've actually put an offer out for those who've been discussing the rising cost of football in the modern era. So the away shirt is £47, but you get a free training top with it. So the little image there is the training top that comes with the away shirt. So 47 quid for the two suddenly doesn't look so bad, does it, Woody?
No, I mean, I think that's a great little incentive, to be fair, because I think regardless of whether you like the shirt or not that much, if you're getting two shirts, you're going to be quite happy, aren't you? It's one thing I did like about Donny, and I think you could just make it out on the collar, is that Oaken. They are based in Doncaster, aren't they? I think, or or it was designed by somebody in Doncaster, and I quite like that as well. I'm with Nick and Craig on their home kit. But I do like that away kit. I think that away kit.
Yeah, away kit's good. Yeah,
and the training ideas are brilliant. Brilliant. We'll be selling our training top because all of us fans are saying we like it, so we'll be picking up the training top for about 45 quid probably.
Morecambe, one of those 10 that haven't announced it, but Gary, I was saying before you came on, Barrow, I'm putting as a contender for home shirt of the season so far. I think this looks quite smart.
Yeah, don't mind that at all. Looks pretty it's tidy, isn't it? Nothing crazy. It's just, yeah, don't mind that.
I definitely think it's a contender. So they're able to.
It's definitely skim fit, isn't it? We've got an athletic footballer there trying to pull it out a little bit. Too tight.
You know what size it is by how quickly it comes back onto your skin, don't you?
It was a Puma. It was a Puma style.
It was a Puma. So you've mentioned the three busiest clubs then, Alex. Where would you like to take a look next?
So the other clubs I think have done the best is, I think, Walsall so far. Walsall have done the best business. They brought in Hussey, who of course played for us before. I think he was all right for us, wasn't he? But he's a good quality left back. He was at Stockport last season. You know, he's a threat from crosses and dead balls. So I think he's a good player. He's got a lot of promotions on his CV. They beat us to the punch on Priestley Farquharson, who was one of the top centre-backs in the division last year. I can't believe he's gone to Walsall. It doesn't seem to make sense. Like, could he not have got a League One deal or someone who you'd expect to be pushing for promotion in League Two? I thought he was a very good signing. And they've got DJ back. They re-signed their star striker from last season. And their fans are delighted about that because he is to them what Charlie Austin is to us, basically. So they're gassed with that signing.
Absolutely.
They've also got that loan forward from Stoke as well, haven't they? Who's meant to be quite hot? Is it James Taylor? So you can imagine putting him up, DJ and DJ up front together. But you can imagine that's going to be quite a partnership because So one of my mates coaches at Stoke, and I was chatting to him, and he was saying, this guy's quite quick as well. So it's kind of, if you've got that, that's kind of old school ideal partnership up front almost, isn't it? So yeah, I think they're going to be a team to watch this year. Which Flynn's probably sat there going, for fuck's.
What's your take, Craig, on? Whenever there's a player that is formerly of Newport or formerly of Walsall, they are being linked with Swindon for obvious reasons. obviously we don't profess to be in the know of any stretch of the imagination, but do you think we would have been in for Farquharson from what you've seen and read, or do you think it's just hype because of where he's gone from?
Well, I think it's only natural to link him. Any player who used to play for Flynn, just like any ex-Swindon player, inevitably ends up getting linked back to us anyway, don't they? So, I mean, my concern is that so many former Flynn players have been linked with us, and not one of them has even come through. Which maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't going to happen. But I'm kind of worried that if we were in talks with them, and for whatever reason they decided to go elsewhere, if Flynn can't convince ex-players who he's played under and that have done well under him to come to us, what chance has he got with any decent quality players, which we do need, by the way, if we're going to go for if we're going to get promoted this season? I don't want to say, competing for the playoffs, competing for promotion. I want promotion. And we need to be good enough for promotion, which we aren't at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. It's just all rumours and people making assumptions, putting two and two together and stuff like that. But it is a work. Like Kinsella, for instance, we were linked with him back in not long after Flynn was announced, really, and that hasn't even materialized. And I'd have thought if that was going to happen with the Flynn connection, it would have done by now. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully in the next week or so there will be a bit more quality coming in. I don't care if they're linked to Flynn or not, to be honest, just as long as they're good enough to get us promoted.
What the worry is are we getting beaten by clubs like Walsall in terms of wages and signing these players?
Yeah, exactly.
We've been beaten by Oldham Athletic to a player this afternoon as well. We were linked to Charlie Raglan, who's at Cheltenham, and I thought that would be if we'd signed Charlie Raglan, I would have been delighted because it's exactly what we need. And he's gone to Oldham Athletic for some reason. No idea how that's happened. So
hopefully for family reasons.
Wow. Didn't I hear he wanted to move back up to Manchester sort of way?
Oh, maybe
that would be the only reason, wouldn't it?
I think I'm not too worried about Flynn's connections with Walsall because he didn't even reach 100 games for Walsall, and let's be totally honest, he wasn't hugely successful there either. He had more draws than wins, and it's just I think it's the Newport ones that I'm, as Craig said, that I'm quite surprised at. But naturally, we are going to be linked with all of them. But I think it will be the same. Obviously, Colchester fans are sat there looking at McCurdy. They've already signed Yandelo and all of that kind of stuff. It's the other ones that are concerning to me that we go, how do we get these like little nutshells that we're going to sign this player, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later they're rocking up somewhere else? These nutshells must be coming from somewhere if they're not Newport or Walsall players. And so yeah, I mean, we all know agents like to play a game and they like to leak stuff to the media. But I just think that's what worries me a bit. Is it Flynn? Is it Flynn they don't want to play for, or is it our wages? I got a feeling it's the latter. And I think as much as I want Flynn to do well, and I think he'll do, I think we'll have more wins this year, but whether we'll have enough wins is a different matter. But I do think that we're kind of blinded by the fact that he's done well on low budgets in the past. But we're talking he's done well with low budgets at clubs that haven't got high expectations.
Correct.
We're a club that have got high expectations, regardless of who you are. Nobody expects as a Swindon fan, and this is that like elitism that Craig was referring to a while ago. Nobody expects Swindon to be in that bottom half of the table, and that's what we've got to that's what we've got to look toward, is the fact that Flynn, I think he will do well, but he's not a miracle worker. He's not going to work this amazing squad. But he does need the financial backing, and I really don't want. If you said to me, "I'll take 4 players," and we didn't sign Charlie Austin this year, I'd have snapped your hand off. In all honesty, I think that's my biggest worry. Is that we're counting on Flynn, who hasn't actually massively achieved in football. He's just a good manager, but he's going to need the backing, and that's what he was missing at Newport and Walsall, I think. Which, funny enough, it looks like Walsall have now got. It's a bit like the old David Moyes argument, wasn't it? David Moyes at Everton, he always did quite well at Everton and did well on a very shoestring budget compared to the rest of the Premier League. And he just went to Man United too late because Man United didn't have the spending cap that they were able to have. So I think that's the same with Flynn. The kind of he needs to be at a club that's going to give him a bit of budget, because there's no such thing nowadays as a manager who's the best manager to win that league. Every manager needs a backing of a transfer budget and a wage budget. And I think that's what Flynn needs. And if he gets it, he'll do well. If he doesn't get it, I'm sorry, we'll be like Newport and Walsall.
The other thing regarding former players of Flynn's, where they might have been good enough for his teams at Walsall and Newport, maybe he thinks they're not good enough for what he wants at Swindon, because we are, as people say, a bigger club, greater expectations. We're well, in theory. So that's part of it. But I do agree with Woody that I don't think the full financial backing is there, and it seems that players or clubs are spending a hell of a lot of money, whether it's on signing on fees, wages, and we're not prepared to spend that amount of money for said players. And I think that's unfortunately where we're at the moment. So he does need to pull a few diamonds out that gives us a bit of hope that we can compete next season.
Of course, on the subject of Walsall, Jocelyn Aberdeen is the other player who's been mentioned in the past but hasn't got over the line yet, and it could be for one or both of those reasons mentioned. Before we let Alex take us on another tour of League Two, Walsall are one of the teams that not released one but all three of their kits for the new season. So they've got the fetching red for the home, white with red away, and the green third kit as well. Craig, you liking the look of these?
Yeah, I like the look of all three of them, to be fair, particularly the green and white ones. Yeah, they're pretty they're pretty decent. Yeah, if I was a Walsall fan, I'd probably buy either one of them, I think. Yeah, they look good.
See Christian's in the chat. Welcome back. Hope you had a good holiday. Refreshed and ready to go again. Alex, where should we go next?
I was going to go to MK Dons, unfortunately, next, because
everyone's favourite return to the league.
I would love nothing more.
Franchise.
I would love nothing more for MK Dons to have a terrible season, but it looks like they're going for it again because they've signed some quality players. They've brought in a player that we were linked with because he left Newport, Norman, the right wing back, who's got really good kind of attacking stats. He's kind of like a Poundland version of Hutton. So we didn't really need him anyway, but he is a good player and plays in a kind of similar way. They've signed Craig McGillivray, who was a very good goalkeeper in League One with Charlton and Portsmouth. That's very impressive. And they also signed Gilby, who was a very, very important part of the Stevenage side that got promoted last season as well. And I live near Stevenage at the moment, and I've got friends who support Stevenage, and they're really surprised that he's not stayed there, and they really, really loved him. So that's a very good signing. Experienced battler in the middle of the park. Someone, again, that we really, really could have done with. But I guess we're not really going to compete with MK, are we? So,
and obviously, as is often the case when a side gets relegated, they do have to make changes. As I was doing a little bit of research ahead of this, it surprised me, say 10, 11 players out the door already. That's not to say more aren't necessarily to follow. The one that sticks out, Woody, would obviously be another McEachran.
Sorry, who was that?
MK Dons.
MK Dons. Yeah, and Oxford City are now in the league below us, aren't they? So other McEachran is
McEachran free.
It's nice that they're all within 80 miles of each other now. It's but yeah, I think to be fair to them, they're a talented family, aren't they? I mean, Zach in Oxford City is a very good player. I think he shouldn't be there. To be fair, I think he should be in League Two. And this is what kind of annoyed. The one thing that has annoyed me a little bit this year is that there's, as Alex said, there's a lot of good players dropping down, but nobody seems to be taking a risk on any players that were in the National League last year. Now, the National League was a decent division last year. There were some good teams in there. There were some good players in there. And that's said by a lot of them going kind of, full time, etc. So, the fact I wouldn't be surprised that we see all McEachrons in this league at some point.
All the McEachrons.
All the McEachrons. I don't think Oxford City will go up, but but I think he will be in League Two at some point. I imagine. I can't remember his age. I think he's the older of the three, if I remember rightly.
He's 30.
Yeah. So he might potentially, maybe even a January deal. Who knows? But he's we'll just have to wait and see. But it'd be nice to just somebody to take some, like we did with Charlie Austin all those years ago. Just take a punt on somebody in the National League. There are some good players in there. There are some really good players in there.
And MK released both of their kits, pretty standard by their usual, just the all white and the all red away kit. But it's smart enough, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Just apart from the logo that's on it. Pretty smart. Just the other thing on signings, while you're talking about it,
go on.
I see. At least we are competing with Wrexham, and I think we've actually signed more players than them. So that's quite nice to know.
Yes, they're on zero.
They're not the be all and end all. So nobody wants to go there.
I was going to come to Wrexham next because I think the promoted sides, it's very interesting to see which way they've gone, because like you say, Wrexham are yet to sign a single player. They've retained Ben Foster, which isn't a new signing, but is still a very good player to have for next year. But
we'd all take Ben Foster, wouldn't
we? We could definitely do with a Ben Foster. Yeah, he's maybe slightly bit more experienced than the guy that we ended up getting. So we've gone a different strategy with our number one. So I think Wrexham. The thing about them is you would expect them to sign some big name players this summer, and it's kind of a surprise they haven't done anything yet. Although I guess what they've kind of been focusing on is retaining players, because they've kind of extended contracts for a lot of their key title winning squad, who I think we can all kind of agree, if you guys watched any of Wrexham, particularly the Wrexham Notts County game at the end of last season, everyone on Twitter was saying, God, those guys are definitely better than us. Those guys could play at the top of League Two already. And I think Wrexham already have a squad that's capable of getting in the playoffs at least. So they just need to be careful and add a few players in key positions and they'll be fine. So it's slightly different comparing us to Wrexham, because we did terribly last year. We know that we need to change a lot. They did very, very, very well last year, and they really don't need to change anything.
And as you say, realistically, they've been building a League One squad while in non-league.
Yeah.
But also with Wrexham, when they were in the National League, they weren't subject to the same wage restrictions as what they would be in the EFL. So they got to be a bit more careful with who they can sign on now. So that's probably partly why they haven't signed anyone yet. But as Alex said, their squad is just they don't need to do too much strengthening to it, do they? So they'll definitely be up there. Whether they'll get promoted or not, I don't know. But yeah,
their wage cap's only on new players, though, isn't it? So they're
but that's what I mean. So that's why they would have to be careful with who they bring in. That they'd be restricted on,
because they've signed a sponsorship deal with United Airlines, which is obviously going to be worth quite a lot of money. So if it's like the Premier, I don't know the details of what the cap is, but I know that with the Premier League, it's to do with how much you're able to generate in revenue. And United Airlines, you've got to say, is going to be a lucrative deal. And they've signed a sponsorship deal with their stadium to give naming rights to some company as well. So they're all right with money, I think. So
they've been business savvy.
Yeah.
You knew.
I flashed the shirt.
Do you mean our 3.5 million sponsors that we've got aren't generating any money? We just got that out, haven't we?
That fiver.
I flashed the shirt just up as you mentioned United Airlines there, Alex, and the eagle-eyed viewer amongst you would have noticed, Woody, you didn't look particularly impressed by this shirt.
There's nothing that screams fucking rugby more than that shirt, is there? The fact that they've even engraved muscles onto it is disgusting. And do you know what? I almost feel like, and I've got nothing against the Welsh. I want to make that clear. But there's nothing that winds me up more that we've got Welsh teams in the English Football League than a Welsh team with bloody Welsh dragons on their shirt. It's just and it's just a horrible kit. It looks like one of those that you know is going to be horrible in the skin, in the flesh as well. See, Kieran's just said it's a fucking Wales home shirt. So,
Kieran's clearly on one this evening. He's got a lot he wants to get off his chest, evidently. He's also said Ryan Reynolds is more business savvy than a plumber. And Sean trying to take a different view on it. It's just me, and I think we are just stabilising until we do the ground up, unless our say healthy budget has mainly gone on one player. Absolutely. You were talking about the promotion sides, Alex. Did you want to have a look at Notts County and how they're going about it completely differently to Wrexham?
Yes, so Notts County have signed a lot of players. They've signed 5 players so far, including one of our own academy products. They've signed Will Vandal fairly early on in the summer. I thought that was like a decent signing, like left wing back. He's capable of scoring some great goals, as we unfortunately found out last season as well. I kind of thought we could have done with bringing him back a little bit, because he's not like an insane player, but I think it would have been nice to have a left wing back option, because don't we just have Devine as like a natural left wing back?
What's a Devine?
Exactly, yeah, and he's injured all the time, isn't he? So we don't I don't think we have a proper left back apart from him, and he's just going to be on the treatment tables all season. So it would have been nice to put Randall
we have
back.
FBT. We have FBT now.
Well, he plays there, doesn't he? I don't know if I describe him as a natural left wing back. He's a very good player. I rate FBT.
The left wing back's a good point. I'll tell you, it's not bad.
Got Wakeling.
Yeah. Sold the words out of my mouth, Nick.
Sorry.
It's a good point, though, and it'll be interesting. Actually, in fact, I'll ask this question to all of you, but before we carry on the chat, how do you envisage Flynn's going to want to go? Is it 3 at the back with wing backs? Is he going to go like 4-3-3, or even dare I say 4-4-2? What are we thinking, Gary?
Oh, God knows. I mean, it all depends on what our squad looks like, doesn't it? I mean, have we got 3 centre backs we could play? If we're playing 3 at the back?
We have now. We've got 3 centre backs now, I think, yeah.
Of course. I guess maybe 3 at the back with 2 wing backs, but could be anything. I mean, that feels like more naturally a 3 at the back.
Okay. Craig?
Well, as long as we're not putting Blake Tracy as a centre back, because he's not a centre. His best position is as a left back, out and out left back, like I've said before, like an old school Stuart Pearce, really. So I'd just be happy for a 4-4-2. I mean, at the back, I guess I'm not too fussed, but like I was saying, have we got 3 good centre backs? We've got 3 centre backs just about, but I want us to play 2 up front. 2 up front. If we can play 2 up front with Austin and Wakeling, or Austin or whoever else we've got available, I think that'll be the key for our season. I think, we had it with Jeffcott, and we had it with Wakeling and Austin, all 3 of them, where we just, we were playing 3 up front, and not 3 up front, but you know what I mean. If we were playing 2 up front, that would have been a lot better for us last season, but we never did it, and we wasted Jeffcott, and to a lesser extent, we wasted Austin by not playing 2 up front.
Okay. Back to sorry, Woody. Are you expecting a 3-5-2? Should we say?
I think he will be aiming for a 3-5-2, but that is dependent on whether we get another centre back in.
At least 2, I would say.
I would like to see him play a 4-1-3-2, personally.
Nice.
I think that
as long as Khan isn't that one.
Well,
oh, no.
I'm one of those unpopular fans that doesn't even care if Khan's in the team, to be totally honest. But I just think that, I don't know, it'd be nice to get a bit of tactical mastery of like from somebody of 4-1-3-2 is not a popular thing, but we could play 2 up front. You could have, you've got the engine of like Wakelin and Hepburn Murphy. You can give, you turn it into like a 4-4-2 defensively and things like that, or even a 4-5-1 if you do it right. So I just, I agree. But I think Flynn will probably aim for a 3-5-2. He'll want to crowd out the midfield. But then I'm thinking, then we do need, I don't think Hutton's fit for a right wing back position for the whole season. And not only that, we've also got to think, and I think this is where a lot of people are probably getting their divided opinions from. We might have, and I don't agree, but we might have a strong 11, but we don't have a strong squad. So if one of them gets injured,
I think
we haven't got. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't agree with the strong 11, but I think a lot of people, when you ask, including our very own Mr. Positive Ben, when he says about like he puts in our chat, doesn't he, what our squad what the lineup could be, and I sit there and go, yeah, but what if that person gets injured? What if that person gets injured? And then all of a sudden we've gone from a mid-table to a bottom half table squad. So I think we've got to. And this is where the business part of it comes in. This is where Flynn will need to, if he's in charge of recruitment, will need to really ply his trade. He needs to make sure that he's getting an adequate backup in, because if he does play 3-5-2, there is no chance in hell you're going to get a wing back playing 50 games a season. So he's going to need cover for that wing back, and he's only got Lavigne, Hutton, Divine if he makes it.
Yeah. The Hutton one's interesting, with you saying you don't think he's right for right wing back position, particularly for the season. I genuinely still believe that Lavigne is a better player than Hutton.
I agree.
Personally. I think if he's given the chance, he could replicate and better anything Hutton does.
I think we spoke about it briefly. Yes, he had a lot of assists. Of course he did. But we did everything down our right-hand side. Absolutely everything down our right-hand side, which is why if he didn't get an assist, it was dead. The game was we pretty much always lost every time he didn't get an assist, because Wakelin isn't a natural left wing back. So what we found ourselves over, we were shuffling over too much. So everything was going over to our right-hand side. So that's why Hutton for me won't be a wing back for the whole season, and that is why he got so many assists, because he was the only one that was able to really do it with he's the only fullback that had an attacking intent. Even when you put Blake Tracy in there, he doesn't have an attacking intent, so
he's a defender first and foremost.
He's a defender first, whereas Hutton, I think he's 2% defender, 98% attacking fullback. So
he reminds me a bit, and this is possibly harsh, but he reminds me a little bit of a B&M Burn, really. If you bought Burn from because he's obviously a better player, but he reminds me of that ilk, because he was much more an attack-minded wing-back, wasn't he? So he ended up playing as an attacker.
I'll come in there.
I think when we say,
Woody.
I think when you say about, sorry, Nick. Oh.
Yeah, the indications are that, from what you can gather, is that he's likely to play 3 at the back. And as we've said, we've got 3 centre halves at the moment. None of them experienced in League Two. Clayton's a class footballer. He's had a season in League Two, so he should improve. We need to sign 2 more centre halves, experienced shithouse centre halves, to bolster the team up. That's the area of worry for me. And we've already talked about the keeper. A 21-year-old, it doesn't look that big. Looks like he might be a decent shot stopper. But is he going to cope with 6'3" centre forwards and centre halves piling into the 6-yard box? We didn't cope last season, and we had player of the season was a keeper, and we didn't cope with it last season. So that's a massive concern. Yeah, exactly. But if he plays 3 at the back and 2 up front, I think Charlie Austin will score 20 goals.
Oh, don't do it.
He scored,
please.
Yeah, he scored 9 last season. Should have been more than that if he'd have taken the penalties. He didn't play many games under Morris or start many games under Morris. Give Charlie a full season with somebody alongside him and get decent service into him, and he will score.
It's an interesting one.
We need two midfielders as well, and possibly this big centre forward. So there is some shopping to do, and like you say, the first 11 are reasonable. I wouldn't say they're brilliant, but the squad is poor, and that's where we're going to fall down if we don't sign decent players.
Yeah, no, 100%. The Austin one's an interesting one because you're right. His goals per game ratio, despite everything, was decent. His goals in-game ratio, perhaps not so much. Everyone points out he scored 9 goals in half a season. But half of those goals were scored in one game against a team that got relegated bottom of the table.
Yeah.
So it's important to look at both sides of that. Alex,
nobody else scored 4 goals past Rochdale, though.
No, very true. Very true. And they've also had a goalkeeper, despite that, who's gone to League One that I would have jumped at the opportunity to have at Swindon as well. Alex, I'll finish that one with you, and then we'll carry on around the ground, so to speak. What are you expecting tactically?
Well, I'm expecting a 5-3-2, which I think could be fine as long as Flynn is able to execute it properly on the pitch. We saw, if you think back to the start of last season, which seems like so long ago now, we started under Lindsay trying to do it, and it was an absolute shocker. It was awful, wasn't it? It was so bad. So I'm worried about how it's going to look if we do play that way. But I'd be very surprised if we didn't do a 5-3-2 or variation thereof. I think Hutton I personally believe that Hutton could be very good at wing back, because I feel like his best kind of position is being able to kind of run forward with the ball and then dig out an early cross. And I think, Charlie Austin and Wakeling, I think it's important they both play as centre forwards. I don't like Wakeling playing as a right winger or left wing back. I like him through the middle, which is a shame because we've also got Charlie Austin who wants to play through the middle. So I would play those two up top. I feel like our midfield is technically very talented, but for League Two, we need big guys. We need bruisers, we need defensive midfield players to protect the defence, and we don't have anyone who fits that mould at all. We have Saidu Khan, who runs around getting sent off despite the fact he's not a physical player. We have all the wrong parts of a defensive midfield player. I do like Kane, but again, too small, going to get beaten off the pitch, isn't he? I do like McEachran, but again, too small, going to get beaten off the pitch. If we sign Kinsella, it sounds like he's a workhorse and he's good at winning the ball back. But again, the dude's shorter than me. He's 5'8" or something. We need size. We need size in that midfield because we're a very small team, as we always seem to be. So
we used to have a really tall player in midfield, didn't we?
So Rowan Ince, but I'd love to have Rowan Ince back. He was
no more recent than that. We only lost him in January. But he slowed the game down, didn't he?
Yeah. Very slow player.
Well, Dylan Kadji was tall as well, wasn't he? So you got to have a bit of talent as well, haven't you? So.
Rob asks an interesting question, which is actually a topic that we probably look at a little bit close to the time, but for me, the simple answer is yes. Does anyone think Kanu, Dvorak, etc. will be involved this season? As it stands now, isn't he? Hey,
Dvorak's quite tall, isn't he?
He's tall, but he's not. There's not much to him.
Is he Peter Crouch? Yeah. Is he Peter Crouch tall?
I don't think he's that tall, but he's not. There's not much on him. But I agree with that. They should be given a chance. What's the point in? We've been saying since Clem took over that there's a pathway to the first team from the academy, from the youth team, and everything from the under-18s, and there hasn't been. Let's face it. And Dvorak, I like, from the spells that I've seen him in the Tim Pot Trophy, he looked quite impressive, and everyone knows about Kanu. He's firing goals for fun at the moment. So why not give him a chance? Not just the odd Tim Pot Trophy 20 minutes. Give him a start. We got nothing to do. I honestly don't see why. Especially for Dvorak, why he can't start, because I think that I've got to be honest. I know Alex was saying that our midfield looks talented and gifted, but this is still the same midfield that ended up finishing 10th, and I don't see why we shouldn't give one of our own a chance, because you don't know how good they are until you start them. in this league. You know, we only have to look at Scott Twine, which gives me hope with Flynn, because obviously he was the one who gave Scott Twine his start. Otherwise, if it wasn't for Flynn, Scott Twine would be in the National League, or probably even lower now. So this is one thing we have to consider. As much as I say I demand promotion and everything, I demand us to get out of this league. If we're giving some of our young talented players a chance, then I'd give Flynn and the team a bit more leeway, really. But if we're not going to give them a chance, but we're more than happy to give these academy players who haven't played a game of professional, competitive football before, then what's the point in having a youth academy and a pathway to the first team?
And on that note, I think that's Aguirre's final chance, isn't it, this year?
Yeah,
Gotta be.
Trouble is, with all those players you've named, unless we get somebody in there who can protect them, we'll just be in the same ball game there. That would just get beat up in midfield, and that's been the issue. It's no good putting Dvorak in there and he gets battered left, right, and centre, because all that happen then is he gets just get kicked out of the team because he won't be given a fair chance. We need
we were happy to
bruisers in there that can protect them. That's where our problem's been.
But we were happy to do that for Kane, and I just don't.
No, I agree.
I don't get why. Well,
it doesn't matter if he's.
Sorry, yeah.
To me, it doesn't matter if it's Kane, Dvorak, whoever. Without protection, they ain't going to do anything, and we've seen that time and time again. We need players in there that can win the ball, win it back, and then give it to the creative players, and we haven't got them at the moment.
Okay. Alex, if I may, one of the teams I'm interested to see what they do this season is Colchester. They let a lot of players leave over the course of the summer with their contracts, etc. Obviously, we know they've brought in Ellis already. Rumours are plenty of players joining them. Are you expecting? I've gone on record already to say they're probably going to be my dark horses early doors. Are you expecting big things from Colchester this year?
I'm surprised you've said that, to be honest, because I would have said that I'm a little bit worried about Colchester because of the things you've said. Like, I'm looking at it from the other side, that like Colchester traditionally have been a very kind of old experience type side. Ben Garner's obviously going to go in there, lower the average age, and get them to try and pass the ball around a bit more. And they've let good players go. They've let Ashley, who was a kind of solid young prospect in midfield, go to Salford. He was a very decent option in there. I don't think Ellis Ianlo is a particularly game-changing signing for them. He's all right, but he's not going to massively improve your team, I wouldn't have said. And I just think Ben Garner is a good coach, but I just don't. I'm not. I wouldn't.
Sorry, Alex, we just got some interference coming in on your mic there. We could only catch sort of every other word.
Oh, sorry.
There
you go. Ben drowned you.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, sorry, I was just saying that I wouldn't have expected too much from Colchester because they're shifting their tactic, they're shifting their squad so much. It's probably going to be a bit of a transition season for them, with Ben Garner coming in, lowering the average age and getting them to play football. So I wouldn't expect anything straight away.
Just to throw a spanner in the works there, when Garner had Swindon, we were in a transition phase.
Yeah, we
so,
exactly.
I mean, could Garner actually be? And I said this about the time. Could he actually be a better manager than he gets credit for?
He definitely looks better now in hindsight.
We'll find out on the first game of the season.
I'm with Alex. I can't see it with Colchester. They haven't, their recruitment. Even though he's changing it, I can't see who they're bringing in that's going to make them, a better team this season. As much as I want them to do well, because obviously we've got Sai, who's a friend of the show and everything, and
he'll be on in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and Sai's a good guy, but yeah, I'm in full agreement with Alex. I think Colchester are going to be in bottom half at best, probably down there, in a relegation fight. I just, the only reason that people think that they might do well is because of the Ben Garner effect, but he's got a lot of work to do there, I think.
Bradford will always be spoke about, Alex, as a team at the top, and they've been busy. I think it's something like 8 out, 6 in already.
Oh, I think I've made a note they've signed 5 players so far. Unless
5, is it?
Signed someone late on. I think in general their signings haven't really stood out to me. There's been no one that I've been like, oh, like he's really good. They signed a player from Harrogate Town called Patterson, who's supposed to be pretty good, but that's only in terms of like looking at kind of what people's reaction to the transfer was on Twitter. When initially seeing that name, I kind of shrugged. It's doesn't mean too much to me. And in terms of Harrogate players, he wasn't even Harrogate's best player statistically. So far, I think Bradford have a lot more they can do. You expect them to be up challenging and then just miss out every year like they always seem to. But they haven't brought in anything too special yet, I wouldn't have said.
Okay. Where would you like to go next? For those keeping track, by the way, the last few clubs that we've mentioned, none of those have actually released their kits yet.
Well, the kind of next two, the last two I would say that have been very impressive. I think Grimsby Town are doing some really kind of surprisingly good business. I think they've been recruiting players that kind of fit the mould of hard-working, kind of gritty, solid players, and they've signed another player today, Conte, who was playing in the National League last year, who is basically kind of he's like the non-league Kante, people used to say about him. He's got a very high kind of stats for winning the ball back, ball retention, moving the ball on from the base of midfield. He looks like a very good capture for them. They've also brought in Malarkey, who was a centre-back at Rochdale, which isn't as bad as it sounds, because obviously they were terrible, but I remember last season a lot of people saying, oh, Rochdale were rubbish, but Malarkey was pretty good.
Yeah.
So he was one of their better players. They've also signed Rose, who's a striker at Stevenage last year, who Stevenage fans say really good things about. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but he's known for his shithousery tactics and again, working hard off the ball. So I just think they brought in about 6 players so far. Grimsby getting their job done early, getting on the training pitch. I really rate their manager as well. So I think Grimsby could be quite good. They're not going to get promoted probably, but they're going to surprise some people, I think.
Ben, welcome to tonight's panel. We've been mixing it up between Alex giving us a sensible professional deep dive into all of our league opposition, while we've been then reviewing some of the kit announcements. Grimsby, one of those who have done theirs. So as your first involvement this evening, Ben, what do you make of Grimsby's kits for this season?
The home kit looks like a pretty standard Grimsby kit, to be quite honest. Every one of their kits looks like another. And yeah, the away one is a pretty solid, standard red away, not too dissimilar to ours kit. Yeah, it doesn't shine out and spring out. I'm sure the Grimsby fans will be a lot more enthused by it or a lot more excited by the looks of it, but to me looks like Grimsby. I do actually come in though with a little bit of late, and I don't know if you gentlemen are aware, late transfer rumour news from Swindon Town that has been hitting about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
That it's been unconfirmed, but during the photos, they've recently released some photos of players flicking through. And there's one player who is not really recognised in the squad that looks slightly older than we should do. And it was a bit like this feed has been sent out, who's he? And he's been recognised as, was it Jordan Moore-Taylor, former centre-back of Forest Green Rovers, Exeter and MK Dons, 160 games in the... nearly 200 games, in the Football League. Was part of the FGR team that got promoted. Obviously, the club haven't come out and said he's our signing and he's come out, but it's going around at the moment, and like the Forest Green fans gone, yeah, it's him. So
Well, the thing
Yeah,
is,
I
this
think
this
could
could
be
be
the
one of
first.
multiple things, because let's not forget Mariappa was pictured training with the club. And
oh yeah, no, yeah,
on.
it's not confirmed signing or anything, and what the word is out there, he's on trial, but it's a rumor. It's something we can chat about, isn't it? Really,
We'll take it.
it's not confirmed, done deal or anything. I'm not saying he's signed, but I'm just saying it's a little bit in a summer that it's been woefully dry of any sort of transfer rumor or incoming players. Just to have something to moisten the wetten the
I
lips
agree,
of an absolute drought is quite nice.
And what we do know is that's probably going to be another media guy sacked. So, leaking photos like that.
Leaking
But yeah,
photos of trialists.
I put it in the group chat earlier as well, because me and Mike Dixon were messaging each other about it, and he said it, and I'm pretty sure it's him as well. Which I think he's part of the Exeter playoff squad as well, from a few years back. So he's going to have a decent.
So he's
if
got
it
all
is
the
him-
credentials we want, so he's absolutely not
Yeah.
signing.
Yeah, I was
Not
going to say he's got
signing.
all the credentials he wants, so he's going to be rocking up in a Walsall shirt next week.
He's definitely Wrexham's first signing, isn't he? That's for sure.
But yeah,
you-
no, I do agree with Ben though. It does when you see something like that, and it's not a bloody ex-Newport or Walsall player. It's quite refreshing to see us actually being linked with a player that's not a former academy product, and things like that. So, yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? I have to
And maybe it's
admit,
like the Brevett situation. Maybe he's already signed. They're going to announce it in a month's time.
We've just announced Brewitt, so you never know. He might have signed a deal in June, but it's Swindon, isn't it?
So what position does he? It says he plays defender. Was he centre back or fullback? Does anyone know?
I believe he's a centre back, but I'm only going off wiki with that. I've literally just researched him before I had a look.
he seems to. If you look at his wiki, he's scored quite a few goals as well. So
Yeah, he's
he
scored.
might be
Yeah,
a-
he's big old dominating centre back experience. He
Goal
fits the
scoring
bill what
centre-back.
we're looking for, anyway.
we might actually score some corners.
Yeah,
Bloody hell.
Well, not if McEachran's taken them. That's for sure.
So, Alex, prior to Ben's transfer rumour roundup, you took us to Grimsby. Where would you like to head next?
Sutton United, I think, have been quite effective as well. They brought in quite a lot of players, 7 players they brought in, including another former Town player, Harry Smith, has gone there. Like, again, I was very Sutton, isn't it? Bringing in like a massive centre forward that they can chuck balls to. I was also, when I saw the signing of Omar Sawumni, who's a centre back who did very well in the National League. I think it was Bromley he was at last year. He's like a 6'6" or something centre back with a long throw. So he's going to suit Sutton down to the ground, I think. That's a very good signing for them. They've also brought in Ungessen, but not our one.
He must be related to Denny, surely.
Probably, surely. But he was in team of the season for National League South last year with an Ebbsfleet team that ran away with the league.
Exactly what Woody was looking for, someone to take a punt on a non-league
Yeah, I didn't
player.
even realise. Actually, to be fair, I knew Sutton had signed Charles Ungessen, but I was just sat there thinking when you were just reading them off, I was like, oh, actually, Sutton have taken that punt. So, I take that back.
Yeah,
All
Sutton
League Two
are doing
teams
a
are
lot
shit
of it.
except for Sutton.
Yeah, so Sutton have been dipping into non-league. They've also got an experienced centre-back, Clay, who was kind of a squad rotation player for Leyton Orient last year when they won the title. A lot of Leyton Orient fans had nothing but good things to say about him. Sounds like, another experienced centre-back option that's going to be a good squad player for them. And most of their signings really, like, experienced tall players that are built specifically for their system. So they're not spectacular signings, they're not big money signings, but for what Sutton are trying to do, I think it's very impressive. So
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you, but can I say something? I know we're talking about Sutton at the moment, but I also want to mention Orient. Do you think, and this is just going aside from our current chat at the minute, that it's happening again for Richie Wellings? Because they seem to be selling all their best players. Is the rug being pulled from under Richie's feet again once he gets back into League One? Just a thought, really. Because he's lost a few players, hasn't he? Since
but
Smith's gone, Vigouroux's gone. I don't think they've signed anyone of note.
Prem, though, let's be fair.
Vigouroux's gone. Smith hasn't gone Prem. He was a quality player as well, Smith. But yeah, it was just a note that maybe Monker was linked in other places as well, hasn't he, old Monker?
And they haven't signed anyone, I don't think, yet.
No.
Richie could be looking at it. You need something different in League One as well. Maybe Smith isn't quite what's required.
Well, maybe. Anyway, Sutton kit's pretty standard Sutton kit, isn't it, really?
You won't be impressed by anyone.
Ben, you're going to say that about every other kit apart from Swindon's, aren't you?
Oh, the Swindon one, though. The Swindon one.
Swindon's is always going to be beautiful. Any other one is just going to be dog shit, isn't it?
Well, the Swindon, like my dad said, he'd go, that's a grower kit, yeah, and I agree with my dad. It's a grower kit. I quite like the pattern without saying it's the roundabouts. I don't want to be like my dad was saying when he was watching earlier, agreeing with Craig. I don't really like to associate Swindon with roundabouts because that's what they kind of other fans take the piss out of us about with their song. So make a big thing of the trains because that's the whole Swindon's past and history. We should build it around Brunel. If we got fucking bridges and Brunel stuff and that sort of thing, then brilliant. But
trains,
not roundabouts.
On strike. Our transfer policy is on strike. So
well, yeah, it has been really. To be quite honest, I can't argue with that.
So maybe we are building the team. Alex, if I may, we've spoken about one of Flynn's ex-teams. Can we go to the other one and have a brief chat about Newport? What are you expecting from them this year?
I'm concerned about Newport, if I'm honest, because it feels like they've lost a number of key players. They've already lost Farquharson, who's gone to Walsall. They're talking about not being able to keep Demetriou, who's the other important centre-back they had. They've lost Norman, who's gone. They've lost the striker who went to Crewe, who was already at Crewe, but it's like a permanent transfer. And they brought in a couple of kind of fairly random players. They've got 4 signings, but none of them with a great deal of pedigree. And we know that they don't have a big budget as well, Newport. They weren't very good last year. They kind of might be circling the drain a little bit. And so I kind of worry about Newport a little bit.
Craig, I flashed the shirt up on the screen. What did you think to that one?
Which one?
The Newport one.
I didn't see it.
Which
I didn't miss much. It's fucking horrible.
Sorry, mate. I didn't see it.
This one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that colour anyway, so it's not, it's a horrible colour for me. But that's always going to be their colour, isn't it? So I'm never gonna like it. I just don't like that colour.
The slightly good news for us, Alex, this year or this coming season is our local derby isn't in a different country. It's just simply in a different county. Forest Green back in the division.
Yeah, Forest Green. So I guess they're the only kind of relegated side we haven't really talked about too much. They've not done a great deal of business. It seems like Forest Green are jettisoning a lot of players. Like there's a lot of Forest Green players that left in January and now at the end of the season just gone. I'm very kind of surprised that they appointed Big Dunk Ferguson as manager. I just thought that was a really crazy appointment when they did that last season. And he's not very experienced as a manager. He might be a bit of a man manager, like a motivator, because of who he is as a character. But I think a big question mark.
Argue with him.
Of course, you definitely wouldn't. It's definitely his way or the highway, isn't it? If he manages like he plays. But I do worry about. Well, don't worry. I don't care about Forest Green at all. But I would say that the question marks over what he can do with a pre-season. I wouldn't have wanted him as Swindon Town manager. I would have been, more pissed off than I was when we appointed like Morris. If we got Big Dunk. Signings wise, they brought in a decent centre back, and they brought in Ryan Innes from Charlton, another massive centre back, good, commanding, high quality player. However, they brought him in to replace Bailey Cargill, who left and went to join Mansfield. So it's kind of like a straight swap kind of thing, rather than them strengthening so much. So Forest Green haven't done too much yet, but they've been trying to sort their squad out, I think.
Do you think Forest Green are going to remove one of their stars now? No, they added stars for each promotion to the Championship. They've got to scratch one off because they got relegated. I hope they do.
I think that Callum Jones isn't a bad player either. The one they've got, I can't remember if it's on loan. I think it's on loan from Hull. I believe he's quite a decent player as well, central midfielder. So, but Ryan Innes, I think, is a steal. I generally think that's a good signing for any League Two club. So that could. I know they've let go of what's his face, but I do think Ryan Innes could be a key figure for them this year.
How do we think Deadly Dunk's going to do in League Two? I always thought you'd do quite well in management.
I want to see him and Flynn go like face head to head.
In it, that'd be good. Sure, he's gonna have a row with someone. It's a shame he's not playing Steve Evans. That would be good to see.
Mark Hughes.
That would be a good one. That would be a good head to head. I'm sure. Did Deadly Dunk have a few set twos with Mark Hughes in his day? He must have been quite young actually when Mark Hughes was playing Duncan Ferguson.
To be fair, you don't want to go head to head with Big Dunk no matter who you are, really, do you? So.
I mean, I've heard Tyson Fury's ducking it for Morecambe.
Yeah.
You mentioned about sides, Alex, that perhaps haven't done too much yet. But one side, I think that fulfills that category. But what they have done has been very good. Unfortunately for us, is Gillingham.
Yeah, Gillingham on the brink of bringing in what would be an absolute incredible transfer. They were about to announce that May striker who was at Cheltenham scoring 25 goals a season. Where if they do that, if and when, it sounds like when, then that will be one of the signings of the summer. That's an incredible deal for them. Obviously, they took Johnny Williams off our hands. That's a decent signing. They signed
as well.
Masterson as well. He was kind of there last year, wasn't he? But they made it permanent. And they signed Clark, who was like a wing back for Stevenage, and I thought was pretty good when I saw him play at Stevenage. Stevenage fans again rate him, and so they've done a little bit of business, like you say, but it has been strong business. I think the best is definitely yet to come from Gillingham.
Despite that, Nick, we've kind of in our WhatsApp chat, a few of us have already been talking up Gillingham as not just promotion contenders, but title challengers.
Yeah, I wouldn't go against that. I think they come on well in the end of last season. I think they'll be there or thereabouts without a doubt, and especially with the money that's being bandied about there now. So they're definitely one to watch.
And Craig, you were obviously a bit like how Ned was talking about Piagiani last year. You were very hot on them signing Masterson, saying that could be a very good signing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good defender. He's got experience in League Two, and he's a decent player. Max Clark as well, like Alex said, and they've made 4 quality signings. It's not they've not made the most amount of signings like Donny and Bradford, but they've made 4 quality signings, which is something that we need to do as well. But he's I think he's 6'3" as well, so he fits the mold for League Two. So absolutely. I'm not a big fan of the Gillingham. I think me and Nick were saying about this offline. The faded kits just they don't do anything for me. I think they just look a bit pants, to be honest. But again, it's just subjective, isn't it? It's personal preference.
Horrible kit.
Standard
horrible
Gillingham
kit, horrible really. Team, horrible fans. Just right for Mike.
If I may take a somewhere fairly local to me, Alex, Mansfield. They've already brought, I believe it's 3 players in, and news today that they could be signing a new goalkeeper as well.
That's a done deal now, yes. They've signed Christy Pym from Peterborough, yeah, so it's a done deal today. He's a decent kind of League Two goalkeeper, isn't he? Wasn't he at Exeter and stuff before? And I think Peterborough signed him off the back of some very strong performances as well, as they usually do try and recruit the star players from League Two and below. And yeah, so they were the first winner, I think, of my signing of the week when they brought in Bailey Cargill from Forest Green. That's a very good centre back, as experience of winning the division. They brought in Swan, who was there last season and scored like a good number of goals for them, but they got him on a permanent deal from Nottingham Forest, I believe.
Yep.
And then an experienced player in McDonald as well, which is again for League Two exactly what you need to do. And they were definitely a team I thought early on, like so in the first 2-3 weeks, I think although they're getting themselves sorted very quickly, and again, incredibly experienced manager at Mansfield in Cloughie. So I think they're going to have a similar season to what they did this year. I think they'll be kind of competing for the playoffs and then just kind of not quite be good enough, because it's a very competitive league this year. It's going to be very, very hard.
Certainly is. We've only got a few more teams left to look at. Anyone in particular you'd like to go to, Alex?
The ones remaining are pretty hit and miss, to be fair. So I'm happy to go wherever you've got the kit pictures for.
That's fine. Let's start at the top then. Accrington Stanley.
I don't know anyone. I think they're like the only team apart from Wrexham not to have signed anyone. So.
That's correct. The only new additions to their first team squad have all been promoted from their youth team. However, they have got this interesting home kit, which I'm sure the picture on the screen just looks like a block red shirt. However, we were looking at it off air. They've actually got a wall design on their shirt. You can maybe see it on the two end shirts there. They've got this wall design as part of their shirt, similar to our roundabouts. Are you expecting much from them, Alex?
It'd be interesting because obviously the manager Coleman is very experienced and he's good at getting kind of a lot out of a little. Because they've just been relegated, obviously, they're not a side with a lot of budget to be able to spend their way back up, like you might expect Milton Keynes to do. I think compared to what else is in the division, like I said, for Mansfield, I think they'll be solid. They'll be hard to beat, but I would be very surprised if they went straight back up.
Woody, if we have a quick look at Wimbledon next, because I don't believe we spoke about them yet. I think it was Joe was saying in our WhatsApp chat earlier, Pierre currently available, released from Wimbledon. Sort of centre back that you think Swindon should look at?
He's a centre back, so Swindon should look at him.
He's 30 years old, so Swindon should look at him.
Yeah. I think I agreed with Joe when he put it in there. I do like that kit, by the way.
Love the Booker.
He's a player we should be looking at. Not too keen on that one. I think, but what we got to remember is that AFC Wimbledon were kind of around by us last year, so it's kind of, are they going to have everything that we need? Probably not. But it's strange, isn't it? How I would have thought he was one of the stronger defenders for AFC Wimbledon. So I just wonder why they've let him go. And that always makes me wonder. Like when you see that Harry McCurdy's been linked with a move away from Hibernian, you know why that is. But you kind of like look at it and go like, oh, why would they let him go? Someone like that? Is it a wage thing? Is it a personality thing? Because it's normally going to be one of those two, isn't it? They either can't afford to keep him or he's a dick. But they've been busy, haven't they? They've let a lot go. I had to pull them up. I don't know if Alex will agree, but I don't think they've made any, big signings, so to speak. I think they've got Jake Reeves, haven't they? Is probably going to be their highest profile, maybe.
Good player.
Yeah, I mean he's decent, but he's kind of faded away the last couple of years, I think. So, but yeah.
Well, he got promoted last season, but
but I mean him as a but I mean him as a player individually, I mean we got to bear in mind that we can't talk about players getting promoted because they could be the worst player in a promoted squad. It's just kind of.
He was at the heart of that team, though. Reeves was a very important player. Yeah. I saw him quite a few times. Like I said, I live near Stevenage. I've got friends that go, and Reeves was one of their top performers. So it's a big surprise he left.
but that's what I mean. That's like, so there's got to be a reason why he's left, because he is only 30. So it's not like he wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't have the legs for League One. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I think. And interestingly, I just want to comment on the Alfie May thing. If we go back a year and a half ago, when Christian was saying that Alfie May was the best forward in League Two, I'm quite happy to give him a little bit of that plaudit now. He might be in the top 3 for League Two now, as well, since he's worked hard the last couple of years to get himself back into League Two.
Ben's second favourite League Two club next, then Alex. They haven't announced their kit yet, but it wouldn't be a Swindon Town podcast without talking about Crawley.
Yeah, Crawley. I think at this point in time, I would have them 24th in the league. Like they're really not doing well in the market. They haven't brought in anyone of any real significance. They paid a fee for a Grimsby kind of rotation player, which is very strange. They let their player of the season for last season go to Crew Alex, which again is very strange. So yeah, like Powell, yeah. So they've only signed 3 players. They've let kind of some key players leave, and then we know Scott Lindsay isn't the most kind of experienced coach. He managed to save them last season. He managed to save us last season.
As well, yeah.
So maybe like I think it's definitely going to be a relegation battle for them, and because the nightmare ownership situation they've got going on, I would definitely have them penciled in for relegation.
If Scott Lindsay is still manager in November, I will change my Twitter badge to a Crawley badge for a week. And I mean that.
Wow. You heard it here first, everyone.
I mean, it's one club will finish below us anyway.
Let's talk about another team playing in yellow. I don't think, I'm pretty sure, Alex, we haven't spoken about them yet. Harrogate?
Harrogate have been very busy. They've signed 6 players already. They've signed 2 different players called Daly, which is notable, I guess. They've signed Folds, who was a good kind of player for them last season, who was on loan from Bradford City, now permanent deal, because they usually get all their players from Huddersfield and Bradford, don't they? Like, that's just their transfer policy. It's like Athletic Bilbao in Spain. They can only recruit players from the county that they're in for some reason. Harrogate, again, they always finish 19th. They always kind of have a good spell and then finish 19th in the league, because Simon Weaver's just doing a very, very good job at that club. But again, that's a team that's going to be very close to the bottom again next year, I'm sure.
How Armstrong is still at that club, I have no idea. He's a top end League Two striker. I'm surprised no one's come up for him. He's keeping him up single handedly. If they keep hold of him again, they'll do it again. But I can't see. He's got to go somewhere, surely.
I think
in that team. That's crazy.
I think the fact that they've lost Patterson, I think they'll be going down this year. I mean, I know Alex, you said you didn't know much about Patterson, but if there was one player that I watched Harrogate this year and last year, if there was one player apart from Armstrong, 2 players then, so another player that always stood out was Patterson. I think he's kind of that pinnacle for them, which is why he's got that move to the more elite team in Bradford, I guess, as the kind of pecking order goes for that area. But yeah, I think I think Harrogate would be down there this year. I think it'll be possibly Harrogate and Crawley.
Mm-hmm.
If my memory retention is correct, Alex, there's just 3 teams left, none of which have revealed their kits yet. Salford, Stockport and Tranmere are the only sides yet to be mentioned.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, I like Harrogate's kit. I quite like that. By the way.
I don't like the sponsor on their kit. It's like a block, isn't it? It doesn't seem to fit very well with the rest of the strip.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you that.
Who else had a red box like that on their kit? I can't remember.
It was before, yeah. I think last season it was a red box. I don't know why they can't just say to them, like we said to My Permit, can you not just like have your name in like, I don't know, block
Area 11.
Yeah.
It does look like a Sunday League Club type kit. I remember when I played for South Cerney, we were sponsored by like Red Roof or some Red Tiles, and the kit was similar to that with a big red blob.
Yeah,
so it looks a bit like
it on or something.
Yeah, a sort of village team kit. No offense, Harrogate fans.
It's got 7 people, well, not 7, but effectively 7 people on this panel talking about the sponsor. So Is it
That's
doing
works,
its
yeah,
job?
yeah.
Let's be honest, it's doing its job.
Well,
But
indeed.
I like that kit. I don't know why. I know I've always quite liked the yellow and black together. I don't know why. Maybe it's because my first club I coached wore yellow and black. But
Don't see many New Balance t-shirts, do you?
no, and I love New Balance as a brand as well. It's the only brand I love that I have no clothes in.
Them and Umbro as well. I like Umbro. I didn't say that Wimbledon was up. I do always like an Umbro kit.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that retro feel, hasn't it? I think it's quite
Yeah.
90s Umbro. But yeah, so for the teams that we haven't mentioned yet, Salford, they lost their captain Toure to Stockport, which is an excellent signing for Stockport. Really bad deal for Salford losing such a key player. But they brought in Luke Garbett, who you might know from playing for Everton, and basically he's got a lot of appearances in the Championship as well. He was a very, very highly rated young player, and so
Signed
that's a
him
bit
on
of a
FIFA
coup
as
for
well.
them because he was a good pickup a few years ago on a loan or something. Yeah, so he's a good FM player. In addition
Signed
to that,
Cairns as well, didn't they?
yeah, so I believe he was there before, wasn't he? But they've signed him on a permanent deal, and the goalkeeper Cairns. And then, as we kind of said for Colchester, they brought in Ashley, who's a good kind of young prospect in midfield. So Salford, again, it's kind of like Gillingham, like the business they have done is quite good. It's just obviously losing such a key player is going to be a bit of a gut punch for them.
Yeah.
Stockport, they haven't really done any business. They've signed Toure. They brought in a player called Chadwick as well. I think he's more kind of a youth kind of prospect, someone that could be good in time, I believe. But I don't know too much about him, to be honest. And what was the other team? Tranmere, that we haven't talked about. I don't think we talked about them. They've been quite busy. They brought in Luke Norris, everyone's favourite big centre forward. My brother was saying to me, like, that's a joke, I think, tongue in cheek, like maybe we should get him back because he's like a big physical forward now. That's like the type of play he's evolved into over time at Stevenage. And they've also brought in a very, very good striker. They brought in Christian Dennis, who scored like 20-something goals for Carlisle last year in League Two.
Surprises me, that one.
That's one hell of a signing for them, getting Christian Dennis. Absolutely.
But the thing about that is that it's quite it's not a lot of pace in that front two. With Christian Dennis is like kind of a Charlie Austin type player, doesn't get around too much, and Lukey Norris is even less mobile than he was when he was at Swindon Town. If you can imagine that.
I didn't think that was possible.
They've gone big with their attackers, though, haven't they? They've got Connor Jennings as well.
Horrible. Poor Norris.
Christ, if he was less mobile, then rigor mortis must have set in, surely.
God.
Sorry, that's just harsh, but yeah.
Bit fair. Harsh, but fair.
Oh, wow. Yeah, sorry, I was saying in amongst all that, Alex, they've got Connor Jennings as well, so they've gone big on their attackers.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the other players they brought in, so Jennings, Hendry and McGee are all kind of experienced League Two players. Jennings was obviously a big fan favourite when he was at Tranmere before, so he's been at Hartlepool and was one of Hartlepool's few good players last year, and now has come back to Prenton Park, and the fans are really happy about that by the looks of things. The big change that Tranmere have made off the pitch, which is very significant, is they brought in Nigel Adkins as a director of football, which is something that a lot of Swindon Town fans, when we were talking about what should our restructure be like at the end of last season, I'm sure a lot of people would have welcomed that kind of appointment, like an experienced guy who knows the leagues, to come in above them. And it looks like they're kind of having a bit of a restructure about how they recruit players and how they plan for the future. I think, again, Tranmere, it's going to be a transition season for them. I wouldn't have expected too much from them. But then Dennis is a proven goal scorer, so maybe he could fire them into the playoffs.
Thank you for your time this evening, Alex. It's been very helpful
Enjoyed
having
it.
someone considerably more knowledgeable than myself guide the kind of conversation around what's actually been going on. Before you do go, though, and a question for all of tonight's panel, I will flash up all of the kits that have been announced again, so you can have one final look. And I'd like you to just tell me. I've already plumped for Barrow, but whose kit has impressed you? Ben, you're not allowed to say Swindon. Let's pick someone that isn't Swindon for this question. So we've got Accrington's Brick Wall shirt. We've got Wimbledon's Football Manager shirt. Got their white away kit as well there, which Woody wasn't so keen on. Here's my pick. for the most impressive. I just think it's quite a smart little design there. Crew, they're rocking a sort of striped red on red. Donny, the one that, or the home shirt that our panel wasn't too keen on because of the sponsor, and the away shirt that Woody did say he liked. We've got all three of Gillingham shirts, which Nick really wasn't a fan of.
Fucking mank.
We got Grimsby home and away, which Ben said, well, Ben pretty much said was meh and just typical Grimsby. Then we've got the big block red of Harrogate. They've got the whole panel talking. MK Dons with their strict one colour policy. Newport, Craig wasn't particularly keen. All three of Sutton's kits here as well, which again Ben wasn't exactly complimentary of. Walsall's solid design for all three of their kits. Craig was fairly complimentary of, particularly the green third kit, and then Wrexham's, which made Woody pull a funny face. Nick, of all the kits that have been announced in the league, which one are you most impressed by?
Walsall I like, especially with the three out together.
Yep.
I like the green. Green, I always like green as an alternative for us. And sorry, was it Barrow, the blue and white?
Yeah, Barrow's the one I said. Yeah.
Yeah, that is smart. Yeah, that's probably one of the better ones. Yeah, it's good.
So Nick's saying we've got the Walsall trio there, and the Barrow kit. Woody, for you?
The AFC Wimbledon home kit, I'm a massive fan of. I think that's really nice. The Doncaster away kit for the second, and then the Walsall third kit.
The green one.
Yeah, and because they're the only club that seem to have used a woman footballer.
Good spot. Craig?
Crew's kit is my favourite, and then the Walsall green kit. We'll have to go for that, yeah.
Ben?
My top two, Newport, actually. I quite like that Newport one. I know people like the crest in the middle. I think it's got quite a retro design to it. And I quite like the style of it. I think I quite like Newport's kit. And no one's going to agree with me with this, but actually the white Gillingham one with the black and white stripes down it, I actually think is all right. The one in the middle.
Yeah, Craig
It's a bit like
particularly against fadeaway shirts.
That's a bit like that film, though, isn't it? You know, where he says that you should go out with really ugly people so that you look better. That's what I think that's what it is. The other two kits are really ugly, so the middle one looks really nice.
Girls, call me.
Gary, yourself, which of the kits are you liking?
I'm with you on the Barrow home, but I'm also very partial to that third white and red Walsall shirt. That looks nice too.
The away kit?
Yeah.
Nice. And Alex, final word from you.
Yeah, it got to be the Booker Juniors Wimbledon top for me. I'm a big fan of when we had that as our away kit, and I think their white away kit is pretty sharp as well. I think in person it looks better than that picture. It's kind of like I think it's meant to be a throwback to their 90s days, and we said we like the Umbros, so I think that's very nice.
Yeah, great picks, all right. We've got a couple of comments in here. Final one to flash up. Newport looks like a small kit indeed. Again, Alex, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. We will. I've had your Twitter name going along the bottom through the whole episode, so hopefully a few more people will be able to pick up your weekly transfer roundup and get full debrief on what's going on in the league. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up with you a few times over the course of the season. And we'll hopefully be talking about a lot of transfers that Swindon have done, some really good style of play, and HMS Pistol League at full flow.
Yeah, 100%. I really loved coming on, guys. Like, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, it could be really interesting later on when things are really starting to take shape closer to the season to kind of check in again on it. So
we haven't discussed this yet, but we should almost certainly get Alex on for deadline day when Swindon are actually going to do something, shouldn't we? Let's pencil something in for us lot and
Someone knows
Alex.
what they're
Do
talking
something on
about.
deadline day.
Yeah, do some more transfer talk. Yeah, sounds good.
Alex, thank you very much. To the guys, thank you very much. Reminder, like we said at the start, that Falls Live in August. Half tickets already gone. If you are interested in acquiring a ticket for that, there is no price. It's just a donation to our charity appeal on our Just Giving page. Get in touch with any of the regular Falls panelists and we'll be able to pass the link around. We've also got the first free auction lots have been made public, the 2 signed shirts and the bespoke Falls Rush In 2023-24 calendar, so you can plan all your STFC trips home and away. The email address is there to get a hold of Nick and submit your pre-bid. Thank you very much for watching and joining in the conversation in the live chat. If you are listening back to this afterwards, thank you for your time as well. And I'm pleased to say, after last week's shenanigans, the postponed interview live stream with Ty Belford, he is available this Thursday. So we will be doing that this Thursday, as opposed to the postponed episode last Thursday. If I am getting called away again, I will tell them, no, you can make your own way to hospital. I've got things to do tonight. Thank you very much for watching. From everyone at Falls Rush In, good night.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
Let's
Pretty
go.
standard kit,
Let's
if you
go.
ask me.